Welcome to episode 15 of Rising Leaders, Stories from the Legacy of Young Athena. Today we have a wonderful soul on with us, Jozy. Thank you for being here. Jozy, so you graduated not this semester, but the semester before, right? So 2 semesters ago?
From high school, yeah.
No, from Young Athena.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, last semester.
Yeah. And then you student taught my symposium. So that was always a fun experience since I'm doing the crossover thing being a student at GCU now. But yes, so you are a spectacular, beautiful soul, and I am so grateful to have you here with us today. So tell us all the things. Tell us a little about you and your first year at GCU.
Yeah, okay, so I'm a freshman at GCU. My journey to GCU was a bit peculiar. I had zero interest in GCU originally, so being here is one of those things that I'm just like, that was God. That God literally did that. It's been an incredible journey, not just through Athena, but all the different things I've been able to be a part of. I'm part of our Leadership in Action Fellowship within the Honors College. I did the PAC Professional Development Program last semester along with Athena. And I also joined TEDx GCU, which we had our event about 2 weeks ago now, which was incredible on its own. And being a teaching assistant, which I was for your honor symposium course. And so being able to do a lot of things here, along with pursuing my legal studies degree. Other than that, I am a music loving, show loving kind of person. I am huge on making playlists and stuff. I am really interested in civic engagement and politics. That's kind of when I want to get into sort of adjacent in that direction eventually after GCU. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Love it. What are you majoring in?
I'm a legal studies major, government with an emphasis in legal studies.
Ooh, this is so exciting. I can't wait to see where God takes you. I was going to say where the wind takes you, but I bet this is a lot more intentional than the wind. So yeah. Yeah. So tell us a little, I want to dig into leadership because you are a natural born leader. First of all, tell everyone how old you are.
I am 17.
Yeah. Remarkable. Yes. That was one of the things I think when I first learned that, I was like, wait, what? And then you're just such a bright light and you're so full of wisdom, even at 17, that I'm like, oh, if I knew 80% of the things you know at 17, when I was 17, my life would have probably been very different. Now, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
You're so kind.
God has a plan for all of us, but definitely you're just a remarkable being. So with that, talk to me about leadership. I'm sure you were a student leader somewhat in high school as well. So I'm sure there's been a journey. And how has that evolved since Young Athena? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, in high school, I was a part of student leadership. One thing about just looking back on my high school days, I was not as involved as I would have liked to been. So I did hold leadership during my senior year, but looking back on it, I was very much like, oh, I don't really know where I fit in here. But then coming to college, I was like, I can really just make a new name for myself, not in the sense of changing who I am, but really pulling myself towards the thing that I'm passionate about, and that's leadership and advocacy and all these different things. So joining Young Athena, for example, was really one of those first steps into holistically shaping myself as a woman, as an individual, along with my passion for leadership. Because as much as I can pursue all that professional development, leadership development, if I am not also shaping myself as an individual, who am I internally, who am I in my heart and soul, I'm just one piece over here and the other piece is broken on the other end. And so joining Young Athena was really huge on that. And then being a part of PAC was really big on that. I got to learn so much about professional development that I otherwise would not have known. And getting that during my freshman year has been especially helpful because I know that when I start applying to internships this coming fall for next summer, I have so much information to pull from, so many resources to pull from. Joining TEDx, that was another really huge moment for me because I was able to be surrounded by a community of people that I otherwise would not have met and do such a unique thing. I didn't know that TEDx was built like this, in a sense that students run this entire event and shape this, and it's really big on leadership because I got to shape a talk with somebody who was about 20 years my senior, help them build their TED Talk and their big moment on the TEDx stage, and that really helped me with my leadership because I had to take steps that I was like, you have to be confident in what you're saying. When you're writing that email, don't be timid about that because this needs to be sent forward. And sometimes it was like, oh my gosh, I'm sending somebody who's, I don't know, late in his late 30s, an email that might be very pointed at this point. And then just so many different things, along with also being a teaching assistant, being able to stand up in front of a room, that was also really helpful with me learning how to lead, because doing that in front of my peers might be scarier than doing that with somebody who's older than me, right? Because it's always been like, they're my peers. A lot of them I've had classes with last semester, so we know each other on some level, and it's like, oh, this is awkward. I have to sort of be a guide to them in some way, shape, or form. And so, really learning how to lead in all these different capacities and learning how to shape myself in just a very dynamic way, so that I was not only able to maintain leadership, but also maintain relationship, because leadership should not be a transactional thing as far as I'm concerned. It should be something that's very heavily relational. That's how leaders thrive. That's how leaders are able to maintain communities that they care for and that care for them, even beyond the moments that they work together. So that's just a little bit about leadership and how I see that.
I love all of this because I'm also a relationship leader, right?
Mm.
Like I lead through others and with others, and that's how I prefer to lead because I think there's a level of vulnerability in that that I love.
Yeah.
So coming from now, were you always that way? Have you always been a relational leader? Or is that something that's grown kind of from your experiences this year?
I think that's something that's heavily grown, and that's, like I said, more me pulling myself towards the things that I care about. I'm able to be a lot more relational if I do, in fact, care about the space that I'm in. And so
Oh,
many times I would be in a space where I just really did not care that much, but it looked good on, I don't know, a transcript or a resume or whatever that is. And in that sense, I'm not even able to be as relational as I would like to, because this is not the space I'm meant to be in. I don't care that much. I'm not that passionate. I'm not that willing to have so many conversations, which is, when I look back on it, it's a very sad reality, and it's a disservice to others and myself at the same time, right? But it's something that I've been able to grow in, because I've really prioritized doing the things that I'm passionate about. Because I mean,
mm,
looking beyond college, that's gonna have to be my life. The work that I want to do. I want to care about the work I want to do, for 3, 4 years down the line, post
yeah.
GCU, and going on with my life beyond that. So starting it now has been especially just like building that foundation.
Yeah. I love this too because when you first joined Young Athena, TEDx was like a new thing for
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
And I know there was a lot of like trepidation of
Yeah.
how do I experience this and how
Mhm.
do I step fully into this? And we were having conversations about like you wouldn't have been invited to the table if
Mhm.
there wasn't merit for you to actually have a seat at the table,
Yeah.
right? And so I love that, just watching you kind of on the backside of it, of you're like, I did the thing, right?
Mhm.
I had the spiky hair moment.
Yeah.
I took the time, I did the thing,
Yeah.
and now look at it now. And it was
Yeah.
beautiful. I heard so many amazing things about TEDx. I wasn't actually able to go, but next time definitely it'll be on my calendar. Yeah. Yeah, I will. And so that's like a whole thing now where I'm like looking at it going, at the beginning of Young Athena, that it was like oh my gosh, I got invited to do this and I actually don't think I know how to do it, and like what am I
Mhm.
going to do? And then look at you now. You bloomed perfectly exactly where God planted you. So
Yeah.
super proud of you for that.
Thank you.
So on that note, talk to
Mhm.
me about like what beliefs about yourself did you outgrow during the Young Athena cohort, and what new
Yeah.
truth took its place? Yeah.
Yeah, I really had to outgrow others' perception of me. And this is something that I've been struggling with. If I'm being honest, I still struggle with it today, but being more conscious of it has allowed me to take steps towards outgrowing it as best as I can. Like looking away from people's perceptions, realizing that I put so much weight in how much other people think of me. And I'm not just talking about the people that I know, right? Like my parents who know everything about me, or my close friends, or maybe the leaders in my life. I'm talking like a stranger somewhere that I might pass on Lopesway, for example, right? I will be like, ooh, what if they don't like my outfit? Which is the most random and absurd thoughts when I look back, and I'm a lot more conscious about this. Being able to outgrow that and take a moment, take a step back, literally sit in my head and tell myself, first of all, get a grip. Like that's the first thing. Please calm down. Why would they care about you? The reality is, as much as I am thinking about myself in that moment being perceived by others, they are thinking about themselves just as much, if not more. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something my mom has always mentioned to me, but it never really clicked until I sat in Athena and we had these conversations amongst other girls who were going through basically the same thing. or similar things. And, getting to hear that it's not just me who experiences this, right? There
Mm-hmm.
was 20 other, 30 even other women in that room going through the exact same thing. And so having to outgrow just the idea of other people's perception, and realizing that it should not matter, right? Whether or not it's somebody at Lopes, or even if it's somebody very close to me, perception is not something that should hold so much weight in my life that it is almost crippling. That it is the reason that I wake up in the morning and decide to wear a certain outfit versus another one, or the reason I decide to, I don't know, speak a certain way or say certain things. It really should not be hold that kind of weight in my life. So that's something I'm consistently working on. I still
Mm-hmm.
have many moments where I have to tell myself, Josie, get a grip, but we're growing in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this. I was just watching a reel, and this lady was talking about the power of naming your brain.
Mm,
Yeah, so we in Young Athena we call it your inner mean girl, and we
yeah.
always give her a name, and you're like, hey, sit down somewhere.
Hmm.
Um, and so she was talking about the power of naming your brain, and I can't even remember what she named her brain, but it was something so hilarious. And she was like, so and so, not today.
Hmm.
And she was so sassy with it, but it's so real, right? Like once you start to gain control of what that experience is that's going on in your mind, and you're like, oh, actually that's outside
Yeah.
of me, right?
Hmm.
It's not me, it's outside of me, it's a part of
Yeah.
me, and I
Hmm.
can honor that part. That feels
Hmm.
very vulnerable stepping into this next space, but
Hmm.
also that vulnerability doesn't have to control, right?
Yeah.
I'm in
It's
control.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So talk to me about you're wrapping up your freshman year, right?
Hmm.
Like that's crazy to think about. It's already been a year, right?
Yeah.
How did you confidently as a freshman start
Hmm.
creating impact in rooms
Hmm.
where there was like so many, like you were saying, you reached out to, you were helping this 30 something person with their TEDx moment, right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
how were you able to like just confidently step into those rooms to create
Hmm.
impact with all of these different populations of people?
Yeah. I think coming into GCU, and this is like week one, whenever we had, I think it was a club and community fair, which is where I found out about so many different programs. I very quickly decided that I was going to do the things that I care about. I was going to pursue my passions. It wasn't a matter of making up for, lost opportunities in high school. It was a matter of building new opportunities. And I really saw college as the catalyst, the gap between me and like the life beyond, which is going to be much longer, hopefully, than like my college span. And so being able to look at that and think, I have to set myself up now. And in setting myself up now, I not only have to put myself in the things that I'm passionate about, I have to be willing to take those risks, whether or not I will be rejected. TEDx is something that was mostly filled with like seniors and juniors. And so I was like, I'm still going to apply. I'm still going to interview, and hopefully I get it, because at the end of the day, if I can get in this room, I am going to be doing something I'm passionate about. It was the same thing with being a teaching assistant. I was like, okay, this is going to be me in front of my peers. I helped with your class, which had 50 something students. And with
Yeah.
Dr. Bree's class, which had maybe 20 something students, maybe 30 something in there. And I was like, these are my peers. At the end of the day, though, this is exactly the space that I want to be in, that I know I can grow in. I had points of growth that I was like, I have goals here that are personal that I want to achieve, and this is the avenue that I can do that in. And so being able to step in that space and say, do this confidently, whether or not you know how to, whether or not you have some sort of guide to it. Very much fake it till you make it, if you think about it. But it doesn't take a little more than a couple weeks to get my bearings and say that, okay, I can at least navigate this and figure my way out as time goes on. But that's really how I was able to step into those spaces and decide, this is for me, this isn't for me in some cases. And yeah.
Yes, that's so good because it's truly self-leadership,
Mm-hmm.
right? At the end of
Yeah.
the day, like we're the only ones sitting in the quiet room with ourselves
Yeah.
first thing in the morning deciding how this is going to go,
Yeah.
right? And so then it's like what are some of the so for women first of all, we
Mm-hmm.
lead differently. You know
Yeah.
that. You've been through my program now. It's definitely heart-centered.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are like the tools or the things that you have been doing to
Mm-hmm.
sit in that self-leadership space? Like when no one's there, no one's watching, no one's cheering you on. Like what are some of the things that you think about or some of the things that you lean on to actually be self-led in that way?
Yeah, I'm very motivated by just the idea that I want to bring things to completion. If I took an opportunity, like I said, going back to being passionate about it, I did
Mm-hmm.
that for a reason. There were days, even with TED, when I was like, I am so tired, where this is not going my way, where the conversation seems very just like limited and nothing, dealing with other people sometimes could be difficult. And I had to remind myself that this is just a lapse in time, a very short lapse in time. And when I look at the bigger picture in a month or 2 weeks, even down the line, I'm going to be able to see that my work, the work of others, all together, we were able to bring something to completion. So sometimes it was just very like goal oriented, like you put yourself here, you're going to have to finish it. And sometimes that was just enough motivation for me. In some cases, it was just remembering that you were passionate about this. This is what's going to set you up. These are you're learning so many lessons from this, and learning to take lessons away from situations rather than seeing it as just like hard times, right? Learning that, every moment is going to be difficult. Nothing, my mom's always saying something along the lines of, you're going to struggle one way or the other. Like, and it's not a matter of having absolute hardship, but it's not going to be smooth sailing all the time. And you have to learn how to take lessons from that and decide for yourself that this is what good can come out of this, and this is how I can grow and come out on the other side knowing that I'm a better person, that I was able to accomplish something, meet my goals, and meet the goals of others in some cases. And
yeah, it's the age-old saying of choose your heart, right? Like like having regret of not doing it is hard, but also doing it is hard. So then it's like choose your heart, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Give me an example of something you did this year that was like courageous, that kind of gave you confidence to like just continue to step into boldness.
Yeah. This was maybe 2 months ago now. This is more relating towards TED. This is a really big part of my year, TED, that is. But I had to send a very pointed email to my speaker, and I'm not going to elaborate on that, but I remember feeling very nervous to send that email because I was like, okay, again, this person is about 20 years my senior. This email is essentially, it was sort of a reprimand in some sense. And so I was very, very nervous because, as much as he might not know that I'm 17 specifically, I am still a college student. He's very aware of that. I am still in a space where I do not know everything about TED. I am going on this journey new as he is. And so, as much as I'm a guiding force throughout this, I do have to, be able to build that confidence up. And so, being able to send that email, I remember just like typing it and clicking send. I was like, you know what? Okay, I remember, I think I called my mom and I was like, can I just read this to you? Like, if you got this email, would you get the point? Would you understand this and be able to take action on this? And I read it to her and she was like, yeah, it's good. No edits on that end. And I was like, okay, just click send and like close your laptop and wait for that response, however long it might take. And I remember in getting that response and dealing with that entire situation over the span of a couple of days, I was able to look at that point and I'd be like, okay, you really did grow. You were able to send that email, and from that point on, this was like 2 months ago, I've been able to just step in confidence, not only in TED but in other situations where, say, I've had to deal with communication that might not be the best, right? It's not always happy-go-lucky when in those relationships, right?
Yeah.
Difficulty does happen, and it's also allowed me to it's built my confidence. And also next year, taking on new leadership roles, knowing that there will be situations where I have to do something similar, and knowing that I do not have to be scared. What I need to do is communicate myself effectively and understand that this is not take things personally sometimes, right? This is not something that they're doing against me. This is just something that needs to be dealt with. We're not fighting against each other. We are trying to defeat a situation in and of itself. And so that was one thing that just like, it really helped me understand not only my leadership, but just what courage looks like in small little things like an email. So,
which is powerful, right? Because we talk all the time in Young Athena about how acts of courage doesn't have to be big, right? That's one of the things, one of the lessons from Young Athena in Act Courageously. We talk about you don't have to like, strap yourself to a 700-year-old tree and like don't cut me down right in front of a bulldozer, or stand at the end of a cannon to protect the population, right? It's literally the act of sitting behind your computer thinking, one, I'm not qualified to send this email, two, this person is definitely how many years older than me and has a lot more experience and time and all of that, and then you're just like, okay, let's full send it. Right? What an act of courage that deserves to be celebrated. It's really powerful. I love that you're just demonstrating the work we talk about in Athena all the time, where acts of courage doesn't have to be big. Sometimes it's just learning to step outside of yourself and follow through. And I'm super happy to hear you say like, and then I stepped away from my computer and I didn't try to hit recall on my Outlook right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And all the things where you're just
Just
like,
closed it. I said, okay, it's been sent. I can't do anything at that point.
yeah, I love that. I love that. So, I want to talk about your Dean's Award. Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
super exciting. It was so funny because we were sitting at the table and you taught symposium with Lori. So it's always funny to like that,
Mm-hmm.
us through Athena and then through symposium too. And like that was a whole experience. But we were sitting at the table. And then when Dr. Bree started talking about introducing the Dean's Award recipient, all of a sudden, Lori just looked at me and says, I bet you it's Jozy. And I was like, that's a safe bet. Like I was looking at her like, I'm not even going to challenge you on that. And so when Dr. Bree called your name out, we were just so incredibly proud of you because we've watched this journey, right? Of like doing the things and then you just like fully, it was like in the spring, you were just like, that's it, I'm blooming. And it was like all the work you had put in just started coming to fruition. So tell me a little about that. Like, how did you celebrate the win and what did that actually mean to you?
How did I celebrate that? I didn't really. That week was packed. That was the same week of TED, so it was like I think Thursday. Yeah, Thursday was TED, and Friday was also TED, and so that week was like I didn't even really have time to sit down and be like, "Wow, this is so great." But I remember calling my grandma because the time difference. She's in Kenya. The time difference is about 10-ish hours. So by the time I got back to my dorm, it was maybe around 10 o'clock. So it was about 8 a.m. there and I called her, and my dad is also there. He was there during that time, and I just called her and I showed her what this is, and like I told her, I got the Dean's Award, and it's from the Dean of the Honors College, explain all that stuff, and she was just so proud, and something my grandma has been like telling me for years now, and telling all her grandkids, but just like make the family proud, right? And like she's really prioritized our education, always told us to really, really, really value our education because that
Mm-hmm.
is the step to everything and beyond for us in our lives. And so being able to show her that was just one of those moments, like so heartwarming. I was like, oh my gosh. I think I was like a little emotional too, because I don't know, this is my grandmother, and knowing what she has lived through, knowing that I and my sibling and my cousins, we get to be a testament of like her journey and the things that we do. That was just one of those moments that I really did feel like I was doing exactly what she had told me to do, which was make the family proud. And so that was, I think, better than any celebration that I could have done otherwise. Yeah. It was really just a heartwarming moment.
Yeah, that's super powerful because you're like almost in celebration with you, but then also in celebration of your family lineage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that too. How much of your family is still in Kenya?
Basically my entire mom's side, and then my dad's side, most of the close family is in the Dallas area. So like my brother, my aunt, my cousins are all in Texas, and then it's just my grandma there, and some of her siblings are there too. So the family on his end is sort of split between the States and Kenya. My mom, though, everybody is there. So between Dallas and Kenya, I'm like good split of family. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's so powerful. Were you born there or were you born in the States?
I was born there. Yeah, I lived there for 9.5 years. So I spent half my life there and half my life here. Actually, yeah, I've spent more time there realistically than I have here. So yeah, it's
That's
like my
super
childhood was
powerful.
there, and then yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a journey definitely.
Yeah. And to come here at just before 10, how revolutionizing
Hmm.
was that for you?
Oh my gosh, when I think about that, I'm like, one day I do want to get a therapist for the purpose of, having a therapist because it's healthy. But that I think phase of my life is very much point of discussion first day. I think because that phase is it's just very monumental for anybody at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're prepubescent and you're going through so much. And because I came in the Kenyan system, we do January through around October for school. And so I just finished the fourth grade and I was thrown into the fifth grade during the second semester. So whatever it is they learned first semester, I don't know. And I probably still don't know what it was. And so that was one moment where not only was it academically, I had to catch up. I had to learn everything that about American education, American history, all these different things so I could thrive academically. And then on top of that, making friends. I had always, because I'd gone to the same school basically my entire life back home, this was never something that I'd known. I was always the one, making friends with the new kids because I was like inviting them into my circles, right? So I was the new kid now. And I was sort of an anomaly because I'm the new kid from Africa. And that is some like, that's different, it's not the new kid from like 2 blocks down. So that phase, just along with, transitioning into middle school within a year of moving to America was that's a very monumental phase in my life that I definitely struggled with just like finding where I am, finding my place. And when I look back on that, I can't say that I would repeat that part of my life, but I learned a lot of lessons that allowed me to grow throughout high school and even just shaped who I am today to some extent. So yeah, definitely
Yeah.
very, very monumental, strange years even. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that we were going to talk about today was um like you are a forever learner. That's one thing that's beautiful about
Hmm.
your soul is you crave knowledge and like what's next and how can I embrace it, and is this something that I want to bring into my person, is this something that I don't want to bring into my person, right? You just have that nature about you of like
Hmm.
always wanting to learn. So do you think that that period of time in your life helped you contribute to how passionate you are, like even in unfamiliar environments? Because you stepped in this year to a lot of very unfamiliar environments and you've thrived. So do
Yeah.
you think that contributes
Yeah.
to it?
Oh, yeah. 100%. I think going through that phase of my life, I had to learn how to become the kind of person who could, make friends, for example, which I think is the biggest thing. Forming relationships was usually the biggest like catalyst towards being able to be in the right environments, to lead correctly, to just, be surrounded in the right places and take the right steps. So I think maybe it was maybe a 3-year phase, I would say between 9.5 to maybe around 12 or so, I think. But I definitely credit those for turning me into a very dynamic person. And like you said, being a lifelong learner, just being able to not just learning from, say, reading books, but also from social situations, right? I had to learn like an American accent, which this is not my natural accent. This is not how I speak to my parents. If anything, I'm like faking it at the end of the day because it's not how I naturally spoke just 8 or so years ago. But that it really just like I had to learn how to be a dynamic, engaged person, and that really helped me thrive throughout high school, where situations arose where I needed to make big shifts, and even through towards college. I think this has been the only other time in my life where I have been able to step in and say I am taking very big steps all at once, all at the same time, and I'm going to pull from my childhood to do this. And so it allowed me to just build that confidence, knowing that I'm capable of it. I did not die in having to make those shifts, so I know I'm not going to die now and
Right.
having to make shifts today. And so it definitely shaped who I am. And as much as those years were not necessarily the best at times, I definitely credit them with, building me up and with tough love and just like strengthening me in many different aspects. Yeah.
Yeah. I love this too. And then knowing that you have faith in God that he would provide too, right? Like that's another
Hmm.
whole piece of
Yes.
that, being able to walk
Yeah.
in faith, that I think makes this a
Yeah.
whole beautiful experience of just understanding that at the end of the day, you're going to be okay,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah. He took me through the, yeah.
I love it. So, you've learned from so many different environments. In
Hmm.
LIA, you've been in all the things just as a freshman. So I can't even imagine what your sophomore year is going to look like, and I'm so excited to be on campus to
It's more
witness it.
proactive, you can imagine. Yeah.
I know. I know. I'm like I haven't even picked out my classes for next semester, and you're like you're probably already so involved in all the things. But so give me like a big lesson that someone else taught you this year that you carry with you all the time.
I would say don't make assumptions. This is something that, despite the fact that she's however many miles away, my mom taught me. And it's a mix of not just her saying these things verbatim, but also a book that she gave me called The Four Agreements by Don
Mm,
Miguel Ruiz.
mm.
I love this book. It's one of those books that, it's very short,
It
really short.
is. Yeah.
And when you pick it up and just read through it, you like have to, it's one of those you take a lot of breaks from because it really just, it hits you
Mm-hmm.
right on the head and tells you this is who you are. And it's like, whoa, slow down. But I remember that don't make assumptions one was something that my mom said. And even in reading in the book, I very quickly realized a lot of the problems in relationships, for example, despite whatever kind of relationship it might be, even the most just like acquaintance level relationships, even transactional relationships, right? It's assumptions that really break these things down. And so learning that if I want to be able to not only build a community, but thrive in leadership, thrive in just like in GCU, generally speaking, now and in the future, I cannot go around this place making assumptions about people, right? I might
Mm.
hear things, I might see certain things, but I do not know at the end of the day unless I sit down with this person. That's to say that like I don't make informed decisions. No, no. I do know the spaces that like I just do not want to be in one way or the other. Spaces that I'm a little more cautious about stepping into, conversations even that I'm cautious about stepping into. But I'm well aware that people are so unique and dynamic in their own sense that I cannot sit back on a high horse of any kind and say that, oh, this is who you are and this is who I am. Therefore, I can't interact with you. Like part of being so passionate about leadership, I really just want to be able to engage everybody and like everybody. If you have a voice, speak, right? I want to hear it. And so not making assumptions, being able to tell myself, hey, do not just look at that person and decide these 5 things about them. Listen to them first. That's been one thing that I've been able to take away this year, and just talking with my mom and sometimes telling her, oh, this is what happened, or I heard about this, or oh, this is something that I'm a little bit nervous about in dealing with another person. That's one thing that has guided me through this year. And definitely next year, as I step into more leadership roles, doing the same thing with a new set of people potentially is something that, I plan on implementing and looking forward to even.
Love it. What do you think is the most underrated leadership quality? Because you're just a natural born leader. And then how can
Mm-hmm.
like others better uplift the people around them? Because that's truly your leadership style. Is you're like, yes, let's be successful together, but also like fly the
Yes. Yes.
nest. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I would say the biggest thing is listening and being receptive.
Mm.
And this is also, I would also say asking questions. You be the one to ask the questions where people are prompted. Because a lot of times within leadership, you'll find people, and I've sat in the same space where somebody's leading me and I'm on the other end where I'm like, I don't want to answer or say anything at all. Not because they are a bad leader in any way, shape, or form. But again, when you see somebody as a title, it's very difficult to feel like you can be open and even vulnerable with them to a certain extent. And so being able to listen and ask questions and be like, hey, I want to hear your voice. Your voice matters, not just in the like project management sense or in the let's get things done sense, but in a like, who are you as an individual? How can we make this work for you? How can we shape this experience to be just as like beneficial for you as it is for anybody else, as it is for me? And so I think listening is so, so, so important. And it's not just about listening and like taking in the things that you care about, because it's not going to be every little thing that I hear that I'm like, oh yeah, I can definitely agree with that. There's things that I'm going to have to reckon with the reality that maybe I'm not fulfilling expectations the way I should be, or maybe organizations that I'm in are not fulfilling expectations. And there's an opportunity for change here, realizing I cannot sit back and say, well, they don't even know how things go on in the background, right? They don't even know what we have to do to make things happen. Realizing that people do come from very different perspectives. They come from a point where, they've seen something, they've lived through something, they've heard something, and they have an understanding of a situation that may lead them to, want to share their voice. And that's exactly what I think leadership should be made of, listening to people and learning and understanding how exactly you can, improve things for everybody.
Yes. Preach. A little bit louder for the people in the back. No,
Seriously,
I
it's
feel
so, so important. Like leading those
yes.
that's part of being literally like it's part of being a leader, leading the conversations that are hard to have. Even the
Exactly.
ones you do not want to hear about at all. The ones that will have you sitting there like, "Oh my gosh, I do not feel like I'm doing my job right."
Yeah.
That's like you have to be able to just do that because that's how you grow at the end of the day.
Yes. I just did my Culture Queen podcast dropped a couple of weeks
Hmm.
ago. And one of the
Yeah.
first ones that we talked about was the level of vulnerability in leadership. It's a requirement.
Hmm.
You lose the human element of it if you aren't able to be vulnerable. And that's such a big thing for me
Yeah.
is it's like if I'm not doing well at something, tell me. that I'm not doing well. Let me sit in that state of vulnerability with you, of being in reflection while you're giving me feedback, because from that place, you're growing as an advocate for yourself of something I'm not doing well. And I'm growing as a leader, understanding that I have people to serve. And in order to serve people, I need to actually figure out how to serve them, right? Yeah, servant leadership is powerful, but if you actually are unaware of how your people need to be served, what are you even doing? You're only serving yourself.
Exactly.
Wild.
And like, I don't want to tie that back into the Four Agreements book, which anybody who listens to it, just like get the book. It's so good. But one of the core agreements is to not take things personally.
Yes.
And that's one thing that, like, when you decide to listen to other people, you have to realize you're not going to hear what you always like. And it's very, very easy to intake what somebody says about, say, your leadership or the work that you do, and decide this is a personal attack against me. They don't like me. They don't think I'm capable. They think all these different things. And that's just rarely the reality. And even if it is, it's not about you at the end of the day. Again, people are speaking from their own perspectives, and you cannot control how people think or speak on their end of things. But you can decide that I am going to make change, that there is a reality behind this that cannot be discounted despite whether or not I like it. And you have the mantle to make change in any leadership position. And so just like realizing I don't have to take that personally. I can be vulnerable and agree that I might not be doing the best job, but it's not about me as an individual in terms of my capability. It's about what steps can be taken to make things happen. Yeah.
Oh, I love this so much. This is just such a powerful topic that I feel like you know me. I feel like I talk about this all the time. Is like, because that comes down to your suitcases, right? Because you can only take in feedback that's negative if it somehow rings true to something you've experienced somewhere else on the inside, right? And so when we do that suitcase activity in Young Athena, where it's like, oh, what bags am I carrying and why am I carrying them? And at what point do I decide that I get to put them down? Right? Because, and I always tell the story of my dad, your hair is blue, right? Maybe that I'll have to add like a little excerpt of the blue hair on the back of this podcast. But I just think that's such a valuable piece of information. The other thing I love from the Four Agreements is how he talks about gossip. And how he talks about how gossip is poison, and that poison always finds you. And I think since I've read that book and I started looking at gossip as poisonous, it completely changed my perspective on people. Because I'm not willing to dabble in poison anymore. And even like I recently went through a breakup. And it was really hard. It's been one of the hardest things in my life. I lost my boyfriend and my best friend all like in the same experience, right? And so sitting in that, the natural tendency when we're angry or we're scorned is to like, let me go vent about this person. And I will tell you that this is probably the third or fourth time that I've been in a really hard situation. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to seek poison. I'm not going to drink poison. I'm not going to spew poison. I'm not going to dabble in it. It's not worth it. What I can do is understand the role I've played in my own suffering, and I can add value to that in my experience. And now I can learn from it, and I can seek those lessons, and I can intentionally make strategic changes to grow myself in lieu of that experience. But that book changed my life too. I actually held a symposium, a Young Athena symposium a long time ago, and I gave away the Four Agreements books as like a value add. So I love this so much. So what were so good. What were your core values from Young Athena?
Oh, my core values. Oh, I think I need to take the test again, but if I remember correctly, I think it was achieving. And it was self-control, I believe was my third one. Achieving was the first. And then my second, gosh, I cannot remember my second. There's a paper somewhere in this dorm that's probably packed in a box that has my second in it.
It's okay.
But
so
I
achieving
remember
is good too. Go ahead.
It was whenever I did that, and I like looked at it, I had to really reconcile with myself that this, in fact, were my core values. Because we all went around the room and shared, and you'd hear the people saying family or faith or being a caretaker, whatever that may have looked like. Very like wholesome things that I was like, oh, that is so sweet. Like that is incredible. Wow. And like you always say like comparison, like you can't do that. And I had to sit there and be like, okay, first of all, stop comparing yourself with others and identify exactly why is it that achievement might be my top, or at the time was my top core value. And I was like, my mom is really big into Enneagram, and I honestly I love the Enneagram stuff. And so she's always been able to identify things in me that she's like, that is heavily driven by, your desire to reach a certain level or look a certain way. And achievement, I realized, does not have to be this very negative and superficial thing. It could be something that is a force for good at the end of the day. Right? If achievement can be used for something where I am able to not drive change for me to look good, but for other people to succeed within that space, or for other people to really just like receive things from that, then that is exactly what achievement can be. And I don't need to look at it and think to myself that, oh, shoot, I am not the person who puts family at the top, or I'm not the person who puts faith is number one, two, and three. It's realizing that. And that was, I think I might need to take the test again, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's still very much up there. And really, just learning how to reshape that narrative in my head has been very, very helpful and key. Yeah.
I love that though, that even just being able to have that conversation with yourself of, is
Mm-hmm.
this really a part of me or is it not? And why are
Mm-hmm.
the reasons? If you don't have superficial reasons for wanting to achieve, then it's
Yeah.
probably rooted in your heart, right? And then you
Mm-hmm.
look at the second aspect of that is part of our teaching of Athena is with success comes the responsibility to lift others, right?
Yeah.
And so
Mm-hmm.
all you're doing is expanding, using achievement, expanding your platform to be able to reach behind you and pull other people up with you,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So I love that. And I will tell you, I have 5 kids at home, right? I
Mm-hmm.
have my 4 of my own and my bonus daughter. Family doesn't make mine either,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so like
Yeah. And
that,
it always feels like
reconcile
I feel
that.
so bad. It
Yeah,
almost feel like
no.
like,
No. And it's built in for me. I knew I wanted 5 kids my whole life. It's not a defining
mm-hmm.
factor of who I am. It's an inner knowing of that's who I wanted to
Yeah.
be. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
it's not a driving force in how I make
Yeah.
decisions.
Yes.
And so that's something. And faith doesn't make my top 10 either because I am a
Mm-hmm.
very spiritually centered person anyway. So it doesn't have to be in my value set. It's an innate
Mm-hmm.
part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so I
Yes.
don't, and you know that about me. You've taken lots of,
Definitely.
you had 10 weeks with me where you were like,
Yeah.
yeah, I get it. So like faith is a huge portion of my life, but it's not,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a place I make decisions from. I don't, when hardship comes, I feel like I lean into my divine connection that I already know is always there, but I'm not making yeses or nos from it. I sit in the comfort of that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
almost, it comes from a different place for me. It's not a decision place, it's a comfort place.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's okay. What your core values are is what your core values are, but I just love that you're
Yeah.
having the internal dialogue around them because so many leaders walk around unaware of what their values are and they don't even
Mm-hmm.
understand where their yeses and their nos are coming from.
Yeah.
And so even just looking at now, like your core value of achievement, all you're doing is living in your achievement bubble and then you end up with a dean's award at the end of the year. Like how much more validating of I fulfilled my core value this year could it be? Right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like manifesting this reality is like, here you go. Here's your answer,
Mm-hmm.
confirmation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. So I just want to, for our final question today, for the sake of time, I just want to talk to you about like your legacy. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
does Jozy want to leave behind, whether for like
Yeah.
new upcoming Athenas or for the Jozy who's going to have a future career and maybe in politics or in law? Or like even in the lives that you're gonna like bring up with you, just like we said with your responsibility of leadership, what does that look like?
Yeah. I was struggling to word this. Whenever I saw that question, I was like, that is such a good question. And I think the closest thing I can give to a coherent answer is I want to be somebody who opens the seat at the table. I want to be the kind of person who is not only a voice of reason in so many different spaces, but allows others to step into a space where they can thrive in that sense. And I think like when I look at Athena, where, we spent so much time having conversations, all of us in that space of like vulnerability and just even other leadership opportunities that I've had along with that, where, like I said earlier, opening that space to listen to other people about what they want. And as I look 3, 4 years down the line, when potentially going to law school and pursuing a career in law, like I know that the work I want to do can be controversial at times. I know that there's so many times that it's going to be like the space, generally speaking, is filled with a very I'm right, you're wrong kind of situation, despite whether or not that's the reality. And realizing that I would want my legacy to look a lot more like I opened that seat at the table for somebody to voice their heart out, you know?
Yeah.
Because I really think that just makes a difference more than anything else. I want to be the voice of reason in that sense where I'm able to say, no, let's all be able to sit at this table and have this conversation. Whether or not we agree at the end is not what our goal is here. Let's open the space for everybody to be cared for, to be loved, to be understood, to be heard and be understood. And so I really just like in every space that I'm in, leadership wise, personal development wise, career wise, eventually, I want to leave that as a legacy. Yeah.
So good. Thank you for sharing your heart with us today. Truly, that's why I feel like this platform is so incredibly important. Is I get to be blessed by so many of you stepping into my life, and even though we only have 10 weeks together, I feel like it's a forever commitment to each other. Like you all know
Yeah.
I've got you, and then I can just pull you in to have beautiful conversations or inspire the next generation of students, which I'm so blessed for. But I completely agree. Like this platform offers the ability for you all to come on here and have a beautiful conversation with me about where you are. And now we have like an archive of who Jozy was at the end of her freshman year. And like, let's fast forward this 3, 4, 5 years when I invite you back and you're on here and you're like in your career and you've already graduated, right? Like, what a beautiful way to watch an unfolding of a woman leader in the
Yeah.
world. Like, it's just so powerful to me. So,
And thank you for even opening this space up in the first place. Like, I don't know if you realize it, but you do have such an incredible impact. Doing Athena, the amount of times I sat in that room, I was like, Kaylee just clocked me. Like, okay. And the amount of times that I've thought about so many of the things you said and the lessons that were learned in those 10 weeks throughout, beyond that in this semester, and that I'll continue thinking about, it's just like you left a lasting impact. And every time I've seen you, the handful of times I've seen you on campus this semester, I'm like, Kaylee, and I know I can rely on you. I know that if I ever just like needed somebody to listen for a moment, you would be the person that I would make that call to, if anything. And so just opening the space here to even discuss this. And yeah, thank you so much. You're so kind for that. And even your words are just incredibly kind. And thank you for this.
I appreciate you so much and thank you for being here. And yeah, if you ever need me at all, ever, whether now, whether 5 years from now, whatever that is, I will always be here for you. And you're just such a wonderful joy. And I am so honored to be able to witness your journey. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. Thanks for having me.